6 people for leaking what it calls state secrets to Qatar through Al Jazeera. That's the court saying that. Joining me from Dallas is Sahar Aziz, Associate Professor at Texas A&M School of Law and the non-resident fellow at the Brookings Doha Center. What is your response to today's sentencing?
Well, this is part of a broader message to the press that if you have any dissent or any disagreement with the formal government policy, then you will end up in the death chambers. It also shows that journalists are being used as a political football between Qatari and Egyptian state disputes, which is not appropriate in terms of upholding freedom of the press.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why such specific focus on Al Jazeera.
Well, it's no secret that Qatar has become kind of a persona non grata in international relations vis-a-vis Egypt because they were viewed as the supporters of the Morsi regime. So they are being indirectly penalized in terms of diplomatic relations, but also in terms of seeing Al Jazeera as if it is a state arm of the Qatari government, which is certainly something that is up for dispute. But the other troubling signal that these trials send is that the U.S. is not in any way condemning or pressuring Egypt in terms of its quashing of the press, whether it's Al Jazeera or other journalists, which then sends a message to authoritarians in the Middle East and in other places that it's business as usual. And therefore, it is okay to put journalists in jail, sentence them to death sentences, put civil society activists in jail, such as April 6th movement activists, Ala Abdel Fattah, Sana Saif, so many other youth activists that are secular. They're not political Islamists in any way. But everybody who was part of the revolution or these mass uprisings is now being penalized for daring to revolt against dictatorship. And meanwhile, the United States is standing aside silent.
Well, it's not only the United States, is it? I mean, there's so many other countries that condemned it in the beginning that have slowly stepped back from this. So they've been pretty effective dealing with states' enemies, I guess. And you just wonder, when's it going to stop? What is the end game here?
The end game is dictatorship until the people revolt. And it also essentially engenders more terrorism because there are many violent extremists in the Sinai and Daesh, for example, in Syria and Iraq, who are looking at people like the Muslim Brotherhood who played the non-violent game of democracy as fools and as naive. And they're essentially, the Egyptian government, when it sentences journalists to death and sentences Morsi and his political Islamist group to death or to life sentence, it sends a message to the terrorists that you're right. The only way for you to call for reform or to try to change the system is to be violent. And those of you who play the nonviolent game, you'll end up in the same place, which is in jail, in the death chambers, or dead. And that does not in any way increase security in the Middle East, and nor does it support the United States' agenda of increasing peace and conflict resolution in the region.
No, it doesn't sound like it, does it? Sahar Aziz, thank you.